This is Next Please by Diego Trovarelli. My name is Hope Anthony, and I am your narrator for tonight. These are our actors.
I am Ken Bolden. I'm playing Giovanni.
Hello, I'm Alex Parrish. I'm playing the official.
I'm Hazel Leroy. I'll be playing Patrizia.
I'm Max Pavel. I'll be playing Marco.
I'm Andy Allen, and I'll be playing Colleague.
Hi, I'm Amy Lynn Elliott, and I'm the journalist.
Hi, I'm James Bryan, and I'll be playing the guest.
Hi, I'm Marianne Bayard, and I'll be playing the activist.
I'm April Yanko, and I'm playing the TV presenter.
Black.
I'm only saying, if you want to eat meat, then go get it yourself.
Indefinite location, nighttime. A half-empty, poorly lit room. The environment is smoky and not clearly defined, and it is not possible to determine clearly where one is. There's a well-dressed young man standing right in the middle of the room. He is holding a handgun in his hand, which is resting on his hip. He looks hesitant. Black.
You take your mangy animals and you kill it with your own hands. Look, it's nothing like finding it right there, served on your plate.
Indefinite location, nighttime. The young man is trying to keep his eyes on something, making an effort to stay focused. He is out of breath. He is sweating. All of a sudden, he raises one of his arms and points the handgun to an old man's temple, standing still in front of him, defenseless. He holds his breath and pulls the trigger. The shot reverberates, making a deafening sound in the room. Black.
Giovanni.
Do you understand what it means to be the cause of somebody's death?
Kitchen, daytime. Patrizia, a woman in a dressing gown who appears not to have worn any makeup for some time, is sitting at the table with her breakfast in front of her. The kitchen shutters only let through a little light. Patrizia is staring at Giovanni, her husband, sitting next to her.
Giovanni.
His name could be Mario, Giorgio, or Francesco. It wouldn't make any difference because he is like any other man. Giovanni has an ordinary face, gray hair and dark circles around his eyes, perhaps because of a sleepless night. Absently, he is staring at the small TV screen in the kitchen, as if he is watching it. He has an absent look on his face. A talk show is being broadcast. The TV presenter is struggling to keep a very agitated activist and a guest at bay.
Yes, but you have a completely distorted vision of...
One at a time, please.
Distorted vision? Do you want to earn money through somebody's death? Take on your own responsibilities then, and kill them with your own hands. Then we can talk about it.
Patrizia turns around to the TV and switches channel, as if to awaken her husband from this hypnotic state. The sadness lingering in the kitchen is now interrupted by the voice of a grim journalist reading the news.
Luckily, without any consequences, according to the investigators.
Giovanni wakes up from his catatonic state, blinking his eyes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was out of it.
Patrizia nods, although she is not fully convinced, and both turn to focus on the breakfast.
And now to our domestic news. It had been coming for some time, and at last it has become law. Starting from the 1st of January, people will be able to retire a year early.
Giovanni looks up, away from his coffee, paying more attention to what the journalist is saying.
This is what the chambers have decided. People will now be able to retire as early as 64, a year before the previous retirement age. Let's have a look at the report.
Patrizia turns the TV off, silence filling up the room.
What sort of world are we leaving to our children?
Patrizia ignores the rhetoric question of her husband and keeps on looking at her breakfast, deep in thought. Dining room, daytime. Giovanni is on the phone. The dining room is also in half light, as though it had been used sporadically. He wanders around, head down, and talks to the person on the line reluctantly.
And what time is it where you are? Oh, I see. Just like here.
He stays silent for a few seconds.
For work once again. And when are you coming back?
He nods gravely to the answer from the other end of the line.
Listen, I know you're very busy, but find some time to come visit your mother sometime, whenever you can. Do it for me, okay?
He looks down, eyes set on his watch, and sighs deeply.
I need to go now. I have to go out immediately, right now. I love you. I love you. Always remember that. Don't forget it, ever.
The intermittent sound coming from the phone tells him that the call has been cut off. Giovanni takes his mobile off his ear and keeps on staring at it, surrounded by the overwhelming silence of the room. His face reveals no expression and expresses no emotion. Doorstep, daytime. Giovanni stands on the doormat. Patrizia leans on the doorframe and looks at him as if devastated. All of a sudden, she quietly bursts into tears. She tries to hide her sobs, covering her face with her hand.
Hey, we both knew that this day would come sooner or later, didn't we?
Yeah, yes. We did, but
Yeah, it was inevitable. Inevitable.
He touches Patrizia's cheek gently, stroking it, although his face reveals no trace of affection.
I love you.
He turns around and sets off, leaving his wife on the doorstep. Car, daytime. Giovanni is at the wheel of his respectable saloon car. He has a stern driving posture, a hollow expression on his face. He is perfectly in tune with the pale dullness of the gray sky outside the cabin. Post office, back room, daytime. Giovanni presses the tip of his index finger on a scanner mounted on the wall. The machine recognizes his digital fingerprint after a few seconds, beeping loudly. He proceeds to the area reserved to the employees and hangs his coat on the hanger. 3 colleagues in the corner of the room watch him secretly, one of them holding a coffee cup in his hand. They chat quietly until Giovanni walks past them.
Good morning.
Morning.
Giovanni walks toward the door. Through this door, there are the counters available to the public. His 3 colleagues turn to look at each other, eyes down. Post office, counters, daytime. The post office is still closed. Giovanni reaches his counter and sits at his computer. A small table calendar next to his computer has all of the current month boxes crossed off with a felt pen. Giovanni grabs a felt pen from the pen holder and marks today's box, which, unlike others, has last day written on it with an X. Post office, counters, daytime. A girl takes a letter to Giovanni's counter. Giovanni weighs it on the scale. He types something on his computer and gives the change back to the girl, who then leaves. Giovanni looks worryingly at the big wall clock that strikes a few minutes after 2 p.m. Post office, counters, nighttime. Giovanni sits alone at his counter. He has no customer to serve. He is looking down with empty eyes. He feels a hand tap on his shoulder and turns around. The same colleague who was holding a coffee cup in his hand in the morning is standing next to him, looking serious.
So you're done.
Giovanni looks up towards the big wall clock. It strikes 7:05 p.m. The post office is completely empty, and so are the counters. Giovanni nods, looking miserably, and his colleague leaves him and returns to the staff room. All of a sudden, a tall guy that looks like an official enters the post office, briefcase, hat, and a long 1940s raincoat. He is dressed as if he was to steal a part from Humphrey Bogart. He stops in front of Giovanni's counter and stares at him without uttering a single word.
I'm sorry. We have already closed.
The official stays silent and shows Giovanni a card that he pulls from an inside pocket of his raincoat. Giovanni closes his eyes hard and breathes a long sigh when he sees the plastic-coated card.
I'll take my belongings.
Please.
Giovanni stands up and disappears into the staff room. Post office, back room, nighttime. Giovanni takes his coat off the hanger and puts it on. He puts his stuff in a box, watched by some of his colleagues with a blank gaze. Once again, he turns to the door leading to the counters and walks past his colleagues, who have now naturally arranged in 2 lines along the wall. Some of them coldly tap him on the shoulder. Post office, counters, nighttime. Giovanni reappears by the counters. He stands motionless at the entrance and looks at the official, who invites him to follow him to the opposite side of the post office with a gesture. Both of them cross the room to stand in front of a small door without a lock and with a fixed knob. There's a number pad to the side of the door. With full confidence, the official types the code to unlock the door, promptly confirmed by a buzz. He grabs the knob and opens the door wide to a staircase going down, leading to darkness. The official keeps the door open and steps aside. He urges Giovanni to go downstairs again with a gesture. Giovanni obeys, immediately followed by the official that lets the door close behind them. Underground corridor / waiting room, nighttime. Giovanni and the official walk downstairs and find themselves in the cold corridor made of concrete and linoleum, regularly lit by glacial neon lights. They walk along it in absolute silence until the corridor ends round a corner, opening up into a small waiting room. Only 2 small sofas, one placed in front of the other. Next to them, there's a big door with 2 shutters. Above it, a red light is on, similar to an on-air sign you would find in radio stations. A young guy is already sitting on one of the sofas. He is wearing a jacket and he is about 25 years old. When Giovanni and the official arrive, the young guy timidly nods his head as if to greet them. The official invites Giovanni to sit on the sofa opposite the young guy with his usual gesture. He keeps on standing formally and his hands are holding the briefcase behind his back. An embarrassed silence fills the waiting room. The young guy nervously taps his foot. He catches Giovanni out of the corner of his eye every once in a while. Giovanni has a blank, almost sad look on his face. The official instead is only staring at the red light above the door, which turns itself off all of a sudden. He approaches the door and opens it and steps back.
Please.
The young guy and Giovanni step through the entrance, followed by the official. Underground hall, nighttime. A spacious, bare hall, only lit by 1 bulb hanging from the ceiling. The floor is covered with a layer of cellulose film. A tall, round coffee table, similar to those of a bar. 4 people in dark suits are sitting at a rectangular table in a half-lit corner just beyond the range of the light bulb. They are protected by a glass panel, like sound technicians in a recording studio.
Under the light, please.
Giovanni and the young guy move to stand under the light bulb. Giovanni places the box on the floor. The official walks toward the round table instead and places his briefcase on it. There is an identification plate in front of each of the 4 members of the jury, sitting behind the glass panel. Unions Representative, INPS, National Social Welfare Institution, INAIL, the National Institute for Insurance Against Accidents at Work, and Ministry of Labor. There's a notepad and a pen in the middle of their table. The official takes his hat off, puts a pair of glasses on, and takes some documents out of his briefcase. He starts to read the documents out loud.
DeSantis Giovanni, born in Perugia on the 18th of June, 2003. Taxpayer identification number, Delta Sierra November, Golf November November, 03 Hotel, 18478 Hotel.
Once he finishes reading the papers, he looks up and turns his eyes to Giovanni.
Is it correct?
Yes, it is.
On behalf of the Italian state, thank you for your commitment and your dedication.
Giovanni nods with an empty look. The official puts Giovanni's dossier back in his briefcase and picks another one out.
Speranza Marco, born in Assisi, Perugia, on the 2nd of July, 2042. Taxpayer identification number, Sierra Papa Romeo, Mike Romeo Charlie, 42 Lima, 02 Alpha, 47 Alpha.
He looks at the young guy above his glasses.
Is it correct?
The young guy seems to be shaking slightly.
Yes, it is.
Very good. According to the official practice, I will now read for everyone's benefit the standard contract foreseeing Mr. Speranza's full acceptance of the agreement.
He turns toward the four members of the commission and nods solemnly behind the glass panel in unison. The official focuses once again on the dossier.
Speranza Marco, born in Assisi, Perugia, on the 2nd of July, 2042. Taxpayer identification number, Sierra Papa Romeo, Mike Romeo Charlie, 42 Lima, 02 Alpha, 47 Alpha. Accepts the responsibility of killing Mr. DeSantis Giovanni in exchange for his state workplace, practicing consensual homicide. The procedure laid down and promoted by the Labor Charter, issued on the 1st of January, 2025, following the great Italian economic crisis, stipulates the physical removal of pensioners. This to ensure a more stable welfare and economic system and a regular generational transition in the workplace. Moreover, Mr. Speranza accepts being killed by the applicant that will take his place on his last day of employment in about 40 years, prior to the acceptance of the standard contract. The Italian state will not be held liable for the homicides committed in any case and without exception.
He looks up towards Marco, who nods weakly.
Please put your signature at the bottom of the contract.
Marco slowly reaches the small table, grabs the pen that the official hands over to him, and signs the contract with hesitant handwriting. The official put the dossier back in his briefcase. He puts a pair of latex gloves on casually. He then takes a gun out of his briefcase and he hands it over to Marco.
Please.
Marco takes the handgun as if it weighed a ton and walks back to the center of the hall hesitantly, standing next to Giovanni. The official closes his briefcase and reaches the jury through a door in the background. He keeps on standing next to the four members to observe the scene from behind the glass panel. Marco stares at Giovanni for a few seconds, then raises his arm and aims at Giovanni's temple, holding the handgun in his shaking hand without pulling the trigger. Giovanni is undaunted. He seems calm whilst Marco's eyes fill up with tears. Marco lowers the handgun again.
I can't do it. I can't.
The members of the jury look at each other. They briefly voice their opinions, which are impossible to hear. Eventually, the representative of the Ministry of Labor writes something down on the notepad. He has an incomprehensible look on his face. The official bends over the table and holds a button down. His voice comes out filtered from a loudspeaker hidden somewhere in the hall.
Mr. Speranza, I'd like to remind you that you have just signed a contract that you're required to comply with by law.
Marco exhales to calm himself down, pulls the latch and aims towards Giovanni's temple again. He starts to cry.
Take your time.
Marco looks at him for a second. He's surprised.
What?
Take your time. You already have the workplace. We can't take it away from you. Take all the time you need.
I don't understand.
I did everything in a rush. I don't know anything about the man I killed, but I would have liked to have known something. I only know he was 70 years old. That's how it worked back then in the day. But I don't know who he left behind. I don't know where he lived. I just wanted to start working.
Shut up. Please, shut up.
I lived in Perugia at 35 Cotolari Street. My wife's name is Patrizia. She's 62 years old. I have a son. His name is Jacopo. He's just...
Shut up.
Marco bursts into tears. He covers his face. Nobody in the room speaks for a few seconds.
We're all human beings, Marco.
The four members consult with one another, and the ministry representative writes something down on the notepad. The official sighs. He is irritated. He clears his throat and presses the intercom button again.
Mr. Speranza,
Marco keeps on crying, and he doesn't seem to have heard what the official said.
Mr. Speranza, look at me.
Marco uncovers his face reluctantly, tears running down his face. He looks at the official through the glass panel.
Mr. Speranza, over there right behind you, there's a door. You can't see it because it is dark, but I assure you there's a door.
It's not true. Don't let him fool you.
Well, do you know what's behind the door?
Marco shakes his head feebly.
There are people behind that door. Young guys like you, to be exact. Young guys that want exactly what you want.
Silence.
I wonder whether you should be replaced with someone else.
Marco's face fills up with terror.
No, please, I need this job.
The official ignores Marco's pleas and turns towards the jury, leaving the intercom intentionally on.
He's not an eligible candidate. There's nothing else to do.
The four members of the jury talk among themselves worryingly. Giovanni turns slowly towards Marco.
2042. You're as old as Jacopo. Shoot me whenever you're ready. You deserve it.
The time in the hall has seemed to slow down. Marco looks at Giovanni. His face is the image of despair. Then he turns around. He notices that the official has lowered his head and is busy talking to the jury about what decision to make. The decision on which his future and his life depend. He turns around to Giovanni once again. Both of them stare at each other for a few seconds. Marco suddenly raises his arm and a shot echoes in the hall. Giovanni falls to the floor. Marco keeps on holding the smoking handgun in his hand. He is totally shaken. He can't really make out what has just happened. The official looks up from behind the glass panel and hits a satisfied smile. He presses another button on the table that opens a door in the dark corner of the hall with a click sound. 3 employees come out of the door. They are wearing cleaning overalls and start to wrap up Giovanni's corpse in film, together with his box carrying his personal belongings.
Congratulations, you're hired.
Marco can't stop staring at Giovanni's corpse, taken away as if it was rubbish.
Thanks.
Then he turns to look at the table where the jury is sitting.
Thanks for the opportunity.
The 4 members of the jury have already got up and are leaving from a door together with the official. It is unlikely that they've heard Marco's thanks. He is left on his own in the middle of the hall, holding the handgun in his hand. Black. Post office, counters, daytime. Fading. Some customers go in and out of the post office, silently waiting in line for their number to be displayed. Marco Speranza is working at his counter. He is serving a man with a hat. Coins are left on the tray.
40, 50, 70, 90, and 10. That makes €2.
The man gathers the coins and puts them in his pocket.
Thanks to you. Have a good day.
Marco turns around to his computer. He calls forward the next number and focuses once again on his computer. The number P130 appears on the display, announced by an echoing beep. Marco keeps his eyes glued to his computer for a while. He is obviously convinced that no customer has approached his counter.
Next, please.
Good morning.
Marco looks away from his computer. He is speechless. The official is now standing in front of him, but he is wearing plain clothes this time. Marco moves away from his counter instinctively, pushing his chair backwards. His jaw cannot stop shaking.
What do you want from me? I've done everything you wanted me to do.
The official does not seem to understand. He is caught by surprise. He passes a piece of paper similar to a receipt over to Marco.
Actually, I'm just here to collect a registered letter.
Black. The end.